begin our pre-council on the 17th Street vacation, but first, a couple of updates from Public Works.
Thank you. Mickey Esposito, Director of Public Works and Utilities, and today we have Monty Berkman, our traffic manager, to give an update on 16th and 17th Street, as well as Donna Garden, who will give an update on our recycling initiative. We're really excited, but first, before we get to all that excitement, we have a update to provide you on the South Beltway. We have reduced our verbal commitment to writing with the state, and this week they are executing that supplemental agreement number 3. I'm so excited to be talking about it. I do want to provide to you a memo. I'll just pass it around this way. One thing I do want to mention, in the supplemental agreement, we're going to be adding icing actually on the cake. In the original South Beltway agreement, we had contemplated the relinquishment of the Warlick portion. So L55W. Oh, hi, John.
We have one.
We have one for him.
Okay, very good. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the Warlick relinquishment. This will be all the way from Highway 77 down to Nebraska 2. So we are contemplating 14th Street and the Warlick portion for relinquishment. Originally, when the South Beltway was going to be constructed, that portion of state controlled highway was going to be relinquished to us along with Nebraska Highway 2. The reason we leveraged this relinquishment now is because of our 14th Warlick and Old Cheney elevated roundabout project. It's right, and what we need is control of that project. So by relinquishing it sooner rather than waiting, we do not have to seek state right-of-way permits, which take time and money, and that's sort of all spelled out in this memo for you. In addition, now is the time to take on that relinquishment because they are in the process of improving both segments. Reconstructed 14th Street, reconstructed Warlick portion. So we are going to receive a fully improved and reconstructed road segment, and then again, we're going to avoid significant time and costs associated with receiving state permits on that portion while we're going through that construction. So we thought, what a great deal. This is really, truly icing on the cake, and we should be receiving a signed copy of that supplemental agreement this week. The other update, I just want to, yes, I apologize.
Can you say again what is the portion of road segment that's being relinquished from where to where?
Right, so
Highway 2 to
Highway 77.
Highway 77, I mean.
Right.
To
down Warlick and then down 14th Street all the way to Nebraska 2.
Okay.
Down
right.
to Warlick.
Yeah.
And South 14th to Highway 2?
Yes.
And what does that mean for? So it has some benefits of having control of it, but I assume that comes with. Does it come with an increase in maintenance cost, or is that something you're already doing?
That is a maintenance. That is an area of maintenance that we already do. We do snow removal there. We do all kinds of pavement management there, and have before this. These improvements this year, we were going out there quite a lot to patch potholes and do panel replacement. So we were already maintaining it for the state because it's located in Lincoln. Now the state was paying us a small stipend, about $1,000 a year. I mean, it was very small to do that maintenance. So that once the relinquishment occurs and we take it over, we'll continue maintaining it and doing snow removal upon it. The other thing I might clarify too is we are taking the relinquishment prior to the construction of the elevated roundabout. So it doesn't have to be right away. We will probably take advantage of the contractor's warranty on that stretch of road, and where they have to come back for a warranty period to do any fixes if there is where we will do, the contractor has to do fixes in that warranty period. So we'll keep you posted on that. But again, 2019-2020 is when the elevated roundabout will be in construction. So the relinquishment will occur sometime prior to that.
Okay. I'm just going to remind the council members that we need to move through these things in an expeditious way because we have 2 pre-councils, then the director's meeting, then another pre-council, all before 3. So.
Okay. Last thing, I'm just going to leave you with a letter, and I hope Cindy, Councilwoman Lamb doesn't mind, but I'm sharing a letter for the Transportation Coalition kickoff that Mayor sent to you. Great, and if you could pass that around. August 3rd is a press conference and coalition kickoff for our transportation strategy. That strategy is being developed on the heels of the long-range transportation plan that was just recently updated. This is to put the long-range transportation plan into action. Our agency is charged with delivering on the vision and goals articulated in the LRTP. We need a strategy for doing that, and we have a 25 to 30 member coalition, including Councilwoman Lamb and Councilman Eskridge, to serve on that strategy. But we would invite you to stay involved. We will provide the meeting materials and all those resources to you. But we wanted to provide you with some background as well as a schedule that we've put together for the remaining steps throughout the year. Our goal is to have a draft strategy completed by the end of November with a final no later than January of 2018. So that's just a quick update. All right, if there aren't any questions, we'll move expeditiously to Lonnie on 16th and 17th.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. Happy to be here. Talk with you a little bit about North 16th and North 17th Street. There's a pending street right-of-way vacation. There's an application for that the planning department has received. At some point, you'll be seeing that come before council. But so I wanted to, I guess, update you on that a little bit, and then also the 16th Street project work that we've been implementing up there to date. And I'll try to move along so we've got time for Donna. So I mentioned, just going to touch on a little bit of the background, some of the history on these street segments, talk about the specific project limits of 16th Street and some of the things we've enacted, I think, to improve safety and enhance that corridor. And then we'll touch on 17th Street as part of a quick summary. So I wanted to go back a little bit in time, at least briefly. As part of the Antelope Valley major investment study, the original project, there was a goal as part of that effort to really reduce the traffic and kind of that cut-through traffic on the 16th and 17th Street one-way couplet through campus. Those roadways, if you can kind of remember back to the days of Bob Devaney Sports Center and access up there as you sort of traverse through campus, they carried about 30,000 vehicles a day. That number is somewhere in about 17,000 vehicles per day today, so about 8,000 or 9,000 on each of those one-way streets. And the goal was really to drop that number down somewhere to around 5,000 to 7,000 vehicles a day. So really create that as more of a local street network, get vehicles out and around the periphery of campus, get that out of those 30,000 students and attendants and all of those pedestrians that are crossing that corridor. So again, there's about 15 to 20 years of history there with the Antelope Valley project. Following on the heels of some of that work in more recent times, UNL's master plan, their Plan Big, if you've ever seen that document, again, further identified kind of this issue with 16th and 17th Street about ultimately someday some street closures internal to campus, creating 16th Street as this two-way traffic flow roadway internal to campus and some of those modifications. So as part of that, even more recently, again, other than identifying that in our long-range transportation plan, back in 2014 and 15, the City of Lincoln teamed up with UNL to look more specifically at kind of an operational level study of, again, these two corridors, and that was completed by the Shimmer Associates. And the things that came out of that traffic study and all the meetings with UNL and some of the users along that corridor were really what enveloped into some of the recommendations and kind of some of the fairly simple marking and signing changes, but hopefully would have a big impact as we move forward. So again, this is just a simple screenshot. The limits of 16th Street that have been impacted thus far with the initial implementation are really kind of from north of downtown, so just about north of Q Street, R Street, all the way up to X Street. There is as part of the corridor, and that's where it connects up here, where the cut across over to Antelope Valley is. So we're really talking about that segment of 16th Street today. Components that were involved, as I mentioned, were really signing. We got rid of some of the very dated traffic signals, some of the unwarranted traffic signals along that corridor. We put up four-way stop control, which is the safest form of pedestrian control at intersections. We did some basic remarking, so there's a double yellow line right down the 16th Street corridor now to identify that two-way traffic flow. There are some marked bike lanes on the street that we've seen folks increasingly use, and there's on-street parking, and we worked with parking services to look at some of those modifications. It's been a pretty big group effort. LES is looking at some new roadway lighting standards and poles along there, and there's a few things yet to come. So I mentioned a bullet on transit. Mike Davis and the StarTran folks used this couplet today to traverse buses. We're actually going to enhance, I think, the transit stops as well. There'll be, instead of just southbound bus stops, there'll be northbound bus stops along this corridor in 3 locations to kind of replace, eventually, if it happens and that need, the ones that are along North 17th Street. So we've been working kind of hand in hand with StarTran too to identify those things. Really the scheduling of this project, as we looked at it from an implementation standpoint at Public Works, obviously wanting to get out in front of the student move-in time this summer, and that's going to come up here in a couple weeks in August. So there'll be a barrage of students, both new and existing, moving back into our campus, which is always brings on some fun challenges, but we're looking forward to that. And it was really structured in coordination with the demolition. If you're not aware, I think most of you are, but they are going to raise those 2 buildings. The Cather Pound residence halls will be coming down sometime this winter. And so a few months back, we implemented traffic control to cut 17th Street down to 1 lane northbound. I would imagine as they go to implode these buildings, that will probably be a total closure for a little while when they do that. So again, trying to get this in place to enhance and at least allow for some northbound traffic flow is kind of another key item that we tried to tie together with the Cather Pound demolition and take advantage of some of those street closures in place already. Just a couple quick photos here. As many of you are aware, this is kind of a shot of 16th Street, the typical 3-lane roadway that was flowing through the campus area. You'll see the pedestrians there on the corner during the green light signal, and so lots of crossing activity along this corridor at both intersections and mid-block locations. So we've taken a look at that in terms of where we've implemented some of the 4-way stop control. And this is a shot of today with some of that striped bike lane, the parking lanes that are identified. We've improved some of the intersection sight distance by clearing a couple parking stalls back from intersections, and then we've actually been able to, yeah.
Lonnie, could you go back to the slide
Sure.
beforehand? I know some of the students at UNL campus where you see those students attempting to cross.
Yep.
They have requested those signs that go actually in the middle of the intersection that say pedestrian. Is that something that we are responsible for, or is that something that UNL is responsible for? I don't know.
It would be something that we're responsible for, and actually in this low-speed kind of environment, we've worked with, I think there was some email flow from one of the gentlemen at ASUN, and through Carl, we've got some signs on order, actually. They are the paddle signs that say yield to pedestrians, state law, and those are some of the new ones that we'll be putting out at the center line of those roadways. So again, to kind of make some of that more conspicuous crossing activity noticeable to folks. So yeah, just a couple more shots again of the 4-way stop and some of the cyclists that are now using the corridor. Most of that striping, the marking and signing has been implemented. We have not.
Lonnie, could you just go back to that one?
You bet.
So describe on the left shot there, you've got looking, I guess, what, north? Is that what we're looking? So you've got inset parking, but what's between the bike lane and the parking?
So in this instance here, this would be basically you've got 2 travel lanes in each direction, then you've got a marked bike lane, and then you've got curb parking. So in this instance, this is where there's even a further setback where they've got some of those meters. So in theory, it would be some where there's not parking, some dead space there to be used during move in, move out. It might be used for some of the loading and unloading zones. There's actually a couple spots as we've looked at the corridor kind of longer term. If we ever came back with kind of a more robust sort of a construction project to do some bulb outs and things like that, there's probably actually some pretty cool opportunities to supplement some of that as well. So that's where you're seeing with that extra width
We'll
there.
ignore the snowplow targets for now.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 lanes each way on 16th.
Yeah, this shot here basically shows that there's a 2-lane section. So there's a travel lane northbound, there's a travel lane southbound, and then next to each lane there is a directional marked bike lane, and then parking outside of that.
Okay. I misunderstood, thinking there were 2 lanes each way, 1 lane each way.
Yep, nope.
And where will it start then on 16th when you minimize 17th? Is it going to start at Q?
Well, really, I guess regardless of the 17th Street issue, 16th will be this way. It's down from just between Q and R all the way north to X Street through that whole campus area.
So it would be at Q or at R going north?
Well, the transition today, there's still southbound traffic south of Q Street, and so that's kind of where the conversion takes place. I don't know if I've got a graphic of that, but I can get you a screenshot
If I'm
of
heading
that.
west on Q, I could turn north on 16th now by the
Yes.
Newman Center?
Yep. Yeah. Mentioned the 17th Street right-of-way vacation, which is a little bit of an independent project, but obviously tied from the standpoint of if that would move forward, just some of those additional opportunities to probably look at something similar in there in terms of that transition from downtown up. What the university is looking at doing and the application that the planning department has received is for this area basically kind of north of R Street from the driveway there up to the south curb line of Vine. So that would be the section that at least initially they are interested in vacating from a right-of-way standpoint. And again, this is the section of roadway that will be shut down for probably the better part of 9 months to 12 months already, based on just sort of the Cather Pound proposed demolition. So,
Where would additional parking be for students? I think somewhere you previously said there'd be more parking.
yeah, what we've looked at in working with Wayne at Parking Services is that segment of our street between 16th and 17th. There was previously no meters along there. That's been outfitted now and is the process of basically for that one block on both the north and south side of our street. Again, that's a simple double yellow 2-way traffic control east-west along our street with parking. And then there would probably, I'm not sure of the detailed plans as of yet for this segment of 17th Street, what UNL may wish to do if that would move forward, but
Nothing like garages spanning over 17th or anything?
not that I've heard to date, no. These were some estimated costs kind of early on for the implementation of the projects, somewhere probably right north of about $350,000. This was a kind of an initial stab at again, that breakdown of what city and UNL would kind of partner up on to get this project done. We have not bid out the electrical services portion yet in terms of some of the mast arm and foundation removals and things like that. So that's sort of yet to be determined. The good news is I think these are conservative numbers, and our costs have actually lowered because we've internalized some of this with our own traffic staff in terms of the signing and marking implementation. So we'll see where those kind of the fallout. I know something Roy's been interested in. The 80,000 square feet is the proposed sort of rough dimension of that boxed area of street right away. And with that, there would be some cost, obviously, that we would intake from UNL for the vacation of that street. I think they've done a rough appraisal at about $1 a square foot to date, because we would maintain utility easements over that to address any underground utilities. But those numbers I don't think have been finalized yet, or those negotiations. So.
And so Lonnie, the utility relocations then on the street vacation, is that? Utilities do not need to be relocated or vacated?
Correct. We would maintain an easement for those. Now, if they wanted to come forward with a more grandiose project, I suppose those discussions would have to happen in terms of the need to relocate a water line or something. But at this point, it's really just been the vacating of the street right away.
So do you put that in the negotiation if at a future date the university wants any further use, that they would be responsible for all the relocation?
Part of the vacation.
Yeah, it probably gets out of my bailiwick some, but.
But absolutely, the easement and any corrections that would have to be made to our utilities would be in the vacation document. Great point.
I'll keep clipping along here, but just some of the benefits again, realizing some of those original objectives of Antelope Valley, the master plan, the LRTP, some of those more recent traffic study goals, and kind of completing this this idea of some complete streets through campus. I think is a really good thing when we compare ourselves to other, Big Ten cities and sites. And some of those cost savings. This is just a couple photos of people are probably well aware. We've got some uglier infrastructure out there. We've recently updated some stuff like this along Q Street, made the Lead Center really happy. And so there's a lot of this similar work that would have had to been done, at $300,000 a pop to replace traffic signals. We've been able to remove a handful and go back in, so we see some pretty long-term both capital and ongoing annual maintenance costs. That's a great thing for us, a savings for the city and the taxpayers. So with that, we've got a few summary bullets here as far as just, again, kind of improving that safety. And I should mention Greenlight Lincoln. We're going to be improving those new timings here throughout the months of August and September on those 9 primary corridors. A lot of this plan is to kind of, again, shift and pull some of that traffic out of campus onto the Antelope Valley North-South roadway. And we're kind of geared up to implement those new signal timings and hopefully make that traffic flow and even be more attractive to pull some of that traffic to the corridor. So that's kind of another exciting thing we're working on.
Right.
Yeah,
just quickly, that's the one concern I hear the most is people use 17th Street, 16th Street because Antelope Valley is slower. And so if we make Antelope Valley work better, I don't think many people will miss it.
Yeah, no, we've definitely heard that message with or without this project on Antelope Valley. It's been a challenge, but we've improved a lot of detection and equipment out there this summer, and we're ready to get the new timings implemented.
Good.
Go ahead.
I want to say that I think you have improved Antelope Valley Parkway, because normally my route to get to my office on Vine Street is just zip up on 17th Street and make that right on Vine. And so now I've become accustomed to make that right on K Street and Vale, and I get to work probably a minute faster. So.
Well, no new timings yet, but
testimonial.
certainly that's probably a function of some new detection and new technology and equipment, and I'm positive that that's made a difference, yes.
Yeah.
Will the cross streets across Antelope Valley, like P and Q, as
And
well as O, go well? Because those have been stalling at times.
Yeah, I mean, the plan is to kind of spread those benefits, and that's what the consultants are working through right now to adjust those timings and those settings, so you bet.
Okay. Larry?
Does the university have any estimates or any even goal of trying to maybe reduce the number of students on campus who are driving and then therefore parking? Will this in any way benefit parking downtown? Do you anticipate freeing up space through this kind of project?
Not just downtown, but in the neighborhoods around there.
Yeah, I don't know if I can speak directly for them, but certainly this idea of making the campus more centric to heads and bikes and not so much vehicles, and pushing parking and things more to the perimeter of campus. They do have some plans for, I know, maybe another garage or two, which would kind of help this idea of where they put that, and then walking internal to campus. So
is that something we can get more information to you on if you are interested in hearing their perspective?
I'd be interested.
Yeah, or
we can sure do
Mike
that.
Davis there too, talking about bus transportation too. If there's some integration with some future plans with UNL on expansion or their own hubs on the periphery.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I got. Don't need any more of your time.
Very good.
Okay.
Then on to the next subject. We're doing just fine on time.
All right.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Donna Garden. I'm Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities, and I'm really happy to be here today to talk about a really large piece of our recycling program. So when we were going through all of the discussions on the recycling campaign, the cardboard bans and the other things that we discussed, one of the biggest components was education. Every aspect, everybody that testified said this was something we absolutely needed in the city of Lincoln. So I'm very pleased today to come to talk to you about this. We have, in coming before you as a resolution on first reading today, a contract for a 3-year contract for a comprehensive education and behavior change campaign. This includes a lot of things, but in particular, it talks to the residential, but it also talks to the commercial side of Lincoln. It was part of our RFP effort to make sure that that was included in it. It is data-based education and behavior change strategy, and it has included in it outreach and engagement, so we hope to have focus groups and different types of groups that represent the community to help us with making those changes and putting out information for education. We hope to have a custom brand that you can see on lots of things throughout the city and recognize what it stands for and recognize what the meaning and message is. And we will implement and evaluate the impact. Included in this RFP is also a waste characterization study, both at the beginning to see what's going into landfill and at the end to see what change we've actually made. So we started this RFP effort on March 29th, and we closed the RFP on May 5th. 4 firms submitted, and we had a 5-member selection committee. I was on that committee, as was a member of the mayor's office, and we had Diane from our CIC office. We also had a senior environmental education person from Lincoln Lancaster County Health, and we had a local waste hauler on the committee that actually chose the winning firm. We interviewed 3 firms and had them come in and provide presentation to us, and I'm very pleased to announce that Carson & Company Global was selected. They're a local firm. We're very happy to have them on board for this campaign. And they're currently doing, or have just finished up, a very small piece of our recycle program called Be a Recycling Champion that was addressed to those of us that already recycle, how to do it right, what goes into your recycling, and so forth. So we feel very good that that will fit very nicely with the new campaign that they're going to provide for us in the future.
Can you tell us more about Carson Global?
Can I tell you a little bit more about Carson? I don't know if Jamie's here today. Yeah, Jamie, I'd like to introduce Jamie Carson. Would you like to come on up and say a few words? Sure. Wherever. Yeah.
Thanks for having us here today. Absolutely. And what are you doing as well? Yeah, you can say a few words about your company.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hi. My name is Jamie Carson. I started Carson & Co. Global. We're based now here in Lincoln, Nebraska. We were in Washington, D.C. prior to. Here with me is Kim Morrow with Veritas Group. They're our primary and equal partner on the project. We are essentially a communications, engagement, and marketing firm for sustainability and science. So we've worked with federal agencies, private sector organizations, academic institutions like Notre Dame, and a number of clients here in Lincoln. We worked, as Donna mentioned, on the Recycle Right campaign. It was about a 4-month process, but we were actively out in the community, created a brand, and messaging to back that work. And we're really glad to be here today, and I'll let Kim Morrow introduce Veritas Group.
So Veritas Group is a sustainability consulting company. We have offices in both Omaha and Lincoln. I'm obviously in the Lincoln office. I'm from Lincoln. I'm from Lincoln. And our expertise that we bring, we work on a whole variety of sustainability issues with clients, and we've done a lot of work on waste and waste recycling issues over the years. And we have expertise in a particular strategy called community-based social marketing, which uses social psychological tools to encourage individuals to make conservation behavior change. So we're going to be looking at these kinds of engines and tools for how to encourage behavior change, and then Jamie's team is going to sort of visualize those and turn those into vehicles that make their way into our economy.
In addition to Veritas Group, we also have another partner, Nebraska Recycling Council, who is not here with us today, but they will be helping inform the commercial sector, barrier research and advisory, as well as being a part of the advisory committees related to community outreach and engaging the waste haulers and recycling collectors.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. On this slide is the money part of it all. It's a 3-year contract. Has basically 3 phases to it. And the first phase in the first year, which is running right when the ban will take effect at the beginning of next year, we're putting a lot of money and a lot of effort. We did have an NDEQ grant, which we will use this first year, of $225,000, and of course then the rest of it in that first year will be from the city budget. All of this, in terms of the amount for the first year, second year, and third year, was appropriated as part of our CIP program, so we do have that money included in the budgets that were approved.
So I recall that, not this last budget, but we allocated $500,000 towards recycling education. So that's the main part of this, right?
That's correct.
And the additional $124,000?
There was actually $200,000 appropriated in this last budget cycle.
Okay, so totaling
$700,000. Correct.
Okay.
And we hope to also, in the second and third year, have an opportunity to go back to DEQ and ask for additional grant funds, which we will certainly do to help out with the educational campaign. This contract also has an option for renewal if we get really good results from this and we want to continue the campaigns out for another 3 years. We certainly can do that after this period this contract is finished. And with that, questions?
John?
Out of those dollars, what is hard cost and what is soft cost?
And that would be, you're asking me the actual details of the contract I can get for you. I don't have that in front of me right now.
You give ballpark ideas, how many, I assume trash containers, whatever, how much is in?
Look at Jamie again. Do you have any idea in terms of the actual cost between hard costs and?
Yeah, I can pull that up.
Or with it?
Would you like me to split between tasks, the 5 tasks, or just overall?
Overall, I think.
Okay. Can you give me 2 minutes?
Sure. She's going to have that.
I might add, all the video production work will be done by our crew here in the city.
That's true.
So some of that will be coming back to CIC to support our operations.
So some of this goes back to CIC, you're saying, out of the 800,000?
The question, probably piggybacking on what John was asking, what portion of that is, or one of the 5 tasks that is going to be partnering with all the private haulers to help them in their outreach efforts on educating their customers?
In terms of what the percentage or portion of this?
How are the private haulers fitting in with this education effort?
They were actually, I think we're looking at having groups formed to actually address that. They will certainly be a very important part of those groups. As they were in the selection process, they were part of that committee as well. Those groups will address the commercial side and the residential side, and I think we'll have active participants from our hauling community in both those groups. And any other focus groups that we have out there, they have to be as part of that discussion.
I think the question was more on the funding. Are we going to assist the private haulers with some of that funding that has been in that 3-year budget to help them with their outreach? I think that's probably what they were thinking or anticipating.
I think maybe we just need more.
You want more of the
down on what the breakdown here, right? It's just, those are big numbers and.
We can certainly get that for you. There will be materials available to them. We certainly did during the Be a Recycling Champion campaign. We provided some materials for the hauling community, so there is portion of that in this contract.
Larry?
I think this is sort of a related question because there's on the table, what do we buy exactly with this? But I'm curious what the anticipated results, what would success look like if this money is spent and in its entirety, what what kind of progress do we hope to achieve at the end?
And I think what we're looking for is a successful implementation of the cardboard ban that's coming up in the future. And if we can get that along with the community to have additional recycling and additional reduction going to the landfill, that'll be a great success. Now, the exact amount of that, I think we do have estimates that we've prepared for the budget in order to put that out. We're looking at having a lot more people participate in subscribing to recycling. I think those are all going to be metrics that we're going to use, and we're certainly going to use the metrics of the waste characterization study to be able to tell if we've seen a reduction in recyclables going to the landfill.
I think her question is well taken, though, that somewhere along the line, we've got to see what the goal is.
What we had anticipated from the original ban was a doubling of the recycling effort, yes.
Or perhaps, I guess maybe I would like to see, do we have a number such as we want to see 95% compliance? You know, those kind of things. Because if we're not allowing corrugated cardboard in the landfill, and half of what we're producing now still goes in the landfill, you know, that's a failure, obviously. But at what point do we consider it a success?
I understand what you're saying. I think what we were looking at, though, was looking at those standard recycling numbers and the pounds per capita of materials that go to the landfill. Our goal in the original ban was to go from, I think, about a 22% recycling rate to double that to near 44%.
Is there a reason we didn't get a copy of the dollar slide in our materials?
No, there shouldn't be. It should be on there. And if there isn't, okay, you betcha.
Only usually get it.
But you know what? If you send it to us electronically, we'd be very appreciative.
You can have it, definitely.
Yeah, to figure the breakdown.
One thing I would just add, if you're using the numbers from the original proposal that included diverting paper and newspaper, I mean, you'd want to readjust those because you wouldn't be hitting those targets. I mean, success would be more narrowly defined, so it'd be nice to know what that is.
Hey, Jade?
And then I guess it would be helpful if we had a breakout of that, but also, is there going to be a website development so that customers can readily go to? And also, one component that I've heard from a lot of constituents is the transparency on the haulers rate for those private haulers that are going to be required to offer recycling, curbside recycling, effective April 1st of 2018. I think that was a concern expressed that, you know, are there going to be different rates in different areas? And
I think JV,
oh, okay.
it's part of their proposal, a portal.
Okay.
Talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
Just real quick, one of the concepts that we put forward is a portal that would be integrated into recycle.lincoln.ne.gov, and that would essentially make available, knowing that the recycling market is complex and there's many haulers, the concept is that they could disclose which zip code they provided services to, allowing a one-stop shop, which is really part of CBSM strategies, making it very easy for the person who is accessing this portal to have one place where they can go to look for the information that they need and be able to subscribe for recycling services right there, which will help promote the companies here in the city, as well as provide us a way to measure the number of new subscribers to that system. And work with the haulers to develop this.
So Jamie, did you say that their rates would be part of what a customer can click on in the portal? That if you live in a certain zip code, that you would be able to see the rates that the haulers are charging for recycling, curbside recycling?
Exactly how that information would be displayed would be developed in partnership with the recycling collectors, knowing that if someone opted to choose a certain one, that information would be readily available based on how the haulers were most comfortable with having that process, in partnership with decisions and advisory from the city and what they determined was the best process. Does that answer the question? It may or may not.
I think so. I think some other constituents have shown concern is, okay, I live in a large apartment building, and when I've made inquiries about doing, signing up with a private hauler on recycling, it costs X amount of dollars. But if my whole complex of, say, 16 apartments signs up, it's the same rate, except we get to split it between 16 of us. So
anywhere that we can support building in efficiencies to the system through the process of working on this campaign and program, we will be keeping those things in mind, absolutely.
Okay.
John?
Yes.
And then Benny?
You've got the DEQ, NDEQ grant there, and when this recycling was before us a year or so ago, you had that grant and you had another one, and am I correct, we kept both grants?
We did, yes. The other one was for additional cardboard bins at our drop-off sites, and that purchase has been placed. We haven't received them yet, I don't believe.
I know that's been a
Got two of the
Okay.
19 that we bought.
super, because we've had a lot of constituents express the difficulty going there, the overflowing, and I think that'll be a big help.
This presentation is just about the advertising.
It is,
Yeah.
correct.
The education.
Okay, education. Okay. Other questions?
Thank you.
Very good.
We'll provide the additional information.
By email.
Yes, thank you.
Digital, right?
Digital.
Digital, thank you. Okay, then we'll take
Probably
a,
two. Is that what you want?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
we'll take a break until 2 o'clock.
Overhead. Oh, wow.
Yes.
How about that?
We'll want to stay that way.